work of art isn't Richard, or it takes on its own autonomy. It's not Richard, the ceramic potter, the ceramicist, I guess. Is that the right word? Ceramist, okay. So is that making some sense? Mm-hmm. So I think in some ways it's sort of a false problem to say, well, will this thing be me? Right?
I think there's also, you've mentioned before, the idea of chronology and time, that things exist at certain moments. And so is it you from 10 minutes ago, or is it you now as well? There's you've discussed this before, this idea of things existing. I think we've got, that one set people off.
Okay.
Who was first? I don't know. Aaron, I think.
Yeah, I just said a really short one. It just reminded me of a quote from the book when Lentz says that nothing is the same as anything else. Nothing is the same as anything else. It's a little quip that Lentz kind of throws out at Marcel. I thought that was like kind of really profound, even though it's just kind of like obvious, but it's really profound. Nothing is ever exactly the same. There's always some difference that makes the two distinguishable, whether we can, whether our methodologies recognize it or not. So that was really.
Yeah, who was next?
I was going to say, because going off with what you're saying about art, like rather than having it being like, if I uploaded all of this, my consciousness, if you will, into, it wouldn't, like, I don't think it would really be you. Like, couldn't you almost say that it would be a representation of your existence?
Yeah.
You don't have to, because I probably agree with you saying it's not me. Like me right now, what is that other me, this other entity, is that entity still me? Why? Is it required for me to be in this biological form to be human?
All right, well, let's ask that as a question. If we can take all the memories out of the brain, could we put them in another one? Then would you be human? Then these are thought experiments.
That's an Dollhouse, the TV show.
That's what?
Have you ever seen the TV show? Anybody ever seen the TV show Dollhouse?
Oh, it's on my to-watch list on Netflix.
Michael Brain take another human, whatever humanness, consciousness, and stick it in this body.
Another person's brain, another body.
Like
Body
my
brain.
brain taking you and putting it in me.
Actually, still consider it being human because it's like a living, breathing thing. It's not. Well, it's not breathing. It's dead.
It's like those teen movies from the 90s, Freaky Friday, and swapping.
Wasn't there Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Johnny Mnemonic.
Johnny Mnemonic, yeah.
Don't they wipe his memory clean?
That was like, they were like implanting false memory, and he didn't know it was real.
Right.
It's a vacation company, give you the idea to go on vacation.
Yeah, so.
Oh, right.
If you wanted to go on an action adventure vacation.
That's right. That reminds me of an appointment on Monday for spring break.
There are probably people who have vacations they won't wipe in, but that happens too. Anthony, you were.
So I think it's interesting how we're all talking about. We're saying, oh, we're going to upload our consciousness like it's a thing that isn't constantly moving. Okay. So for us to be, for us to stay us in the process of uploading, it has to be also constantly in motion. And as soon as you stop that from moving, like if you take a snapshot, we stop for that amount of time. Okay? And so, since we can't do that, we don't know if we stop it and start it up again, if it's anything the same. Right? I mean, for all intents and purposes, you're dead. You're gone. There's that physical arrangement, that plays by the rules, by the physical rules.
Okay, so suspended animation, freezing, cryogenic freezing. If I stop you from consciousness, take you out of consciousness, then bring you back in 100 years, so you're still you.
Well, what if it's, so you're tethered to this kind of experience, like this continuous experience. So if you stop it and start it up again, what if it's, for all intents and purposes, you, but the you that is tethered to that experience since it stopped is gone? And the same thing, cryogenics, same thing is true for teleportation. If you construct a copy of yourself at the destination and destroy the original, you're not.
There's a story for that actually.
Yes.
It's called Think Like a Dinosaur.
Yeah. Yeah, this is interesting. The teleportation is a very interesting one because, in a philosophical sense, it brings up the idea of if it's the Dennett problem. If I deconstruct myself atom by atom and rebuild myself atom by atom, am I still the same person? We're back to the ship again. You know?
So it's interesting that we're not, we think of ourselves as an object, and we think of our mind and our consciousness and stuff as kind of closer to objects, but we're a verb.
I'm sorry, for what?
We're a verb.
A verb?
Yeah. It
But
has
a
to
verb
be-
is a noun.
Well, so it has to be emotion for it to work.
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna resist.
Solid?
I was going to bring up teleportation too. I was reading Catherine Hill's last night, How We Became Post-Human. She mentioned the idea of downloading your consciousness, and teleportation are all of these post-human fantasies of what we expect to be the post-human. She would call that the post-human. She also brought up, the Star Trek teleportation. And then that got me thinking about Data. If they could delete and recreate an entire being, how come they wouldn't be able to create, like, Data? I mean, Data's got artificial intelligence, but he doesn't have emotions. Tell me how they can rebuild something, but they can't do that.
Well, Star Trek becomes really weird then if you think about, teleportation, the original copy's destroyed.
Oh, yeah.
Every time somebody is beamed up or down, they're dead. They're gone. They've died once. Right? That's -1 life. So,
But of course, the strange thing with teleportation is, we assume it's travelling at the speed. There's all sorts of physics problems with this, travelling at the speed of light down to a planet's surface, looking back up and seeing yourself on the spaceship, all those kind of things. We're off. Brian had his hand up.
Regarding data, this may be visual anatomy, but I thought the whole reason why they wouldn't get new data is there were sanctions against them from the Federation. They had the whole eugenics war and all this stuff. They got a lot of laws in place.
There was the evil brother.
Okay. Probably.
Bring up copying yourself and stuff. I think of cutting a starfish in half or a worm in half. It doesn't die.
Yeah.
No point does it just die and come back to life. It's too rare.
That's again an interesting,
No, I found it. Starfish though.
interesting question. Cut a starfish in half, it doesn't die. You get 2 starfish. Things grow back. So is that which one is the starfish?
Starfish don't have brains, though.
Still interested.
But there's an interesting way then to turn these examples back onto our own biological existence. So you and I might want to take the sort of privileged position that I'm an original, right? But just imagine the experience of going through a family photo album, and you find that great uncle that looks just like you did when you were 5 or something, right? Or the other way around, right? So in a weird way, right? We have this fantasy where we imagine ourselves very forgetfully. We imagine ourselves as something like an original moment, but in fact, we're all copies. We're all replicants already. Right? And one of the great things about getting older, at least for me, has been this kind of discovery over time. Just the older you get and the more you see the next generation, it brings back the previous generations. And you say, gee, I'm not all that unique, really. Right? And I think biological sciences are I think, making great advances in reminding us that we have this kind of naivete about our originality, our uniqueness. Freud in some ways would call this primary narcissism, that we automatically, when we're born as infants, we kind of think we're the center of the world, and gradually over time we come to the rude awakening that there are other people in the world, and we're not at the center.
Well, some people do.
Oh, you haven't, you still haven't.
Teenagers don't.
Yeah, teenagers, that's true. But it's wrestling them. So where is the fantasy, we might ask, right? The fantasy seems to be in positing these initial positions that assume a kind of originality, uniqueness, individuality, and that we each are an originating instance of one.
Which brings up interesting questions about uniqueness and originality in artificial intelligence. If you're to produce an artificial intelligence, you could produce 10 of them. If you've got one of the great things about digital systems is their reproducibility. So,
are they like
does that
mean
mean
weaker as you go?
No.
Are they all each one you reproduce is?
I mean, these systems may change as they continue to learn over time, but when they come out, they could be exact copies. We can theoretically make exact copies of them. So, is that sense of uniqueness something that is needed for consciousness for human?
But then once you have an exact copy of say, an initiating entity or object, once you make an exact copy and another exact copy and another exact copy, won't different things happen to those different copies?
Oh, yes.
So they differentiate. So the baseline might be an exact.
That's what I was just meaning with my last comment. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So
they may change all the time, but initially they're all the same. Yeah. And on the subject of making copies, especially for HCI students, do you know the library has a 3D printer now? They've just bought a MakerBot. You can print anything, and it's cheap, a few dollars, to make toys and things and all sorts of little things. So 3D. I'm looking for students to do projects with it, you know. So just throw that out. Anyway, so Matt, you.
About the whole cloning and replication. There was actually a movie in 2009 called Moon. Did anyone see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Moon. It came out in 2009 with
low budget site, independent site.
yeah, but it was really an ethical question for cloning. What happened was there was someone who was on a 3-year contract to go on the moon. You're gonna spoil it. You're gonna spoil it. I won't bring it up. Cloning is crazy.
Yeah, you don't want it spoiled.
It is a great movie though. Duncan Jones, isn't it?
Yeah.
Duncan Jones, yeah.
So the larger point would be without spoiling the movie.
Yeah, you can't.
Right.
There's an explosion.
You know, we're just sort of we're a replication of something marvelous because we're a combination of two parties of genes. Right? So while we may share traits with our great uncle, we are unique compared to that great uncle. I mean, you know, we can look just like him when we're 5. I look just like mine when I was 5. But I share vastly different on the small scale. I mean, if we're going to be that scrutinizing of it, then, you know, I have way different genes than him because a whole different party was involved. So I would say that we're not replications, we're derivatives.
I'm comfortable with that qualification. I think that there's been some recent people that do biology and evolution, maybe Aaron, I don't know if to speak to this, but I believe that there's actually a finite number of people with whom we've shared genes. So the history of human history, in fact, is one, to use this term loosely, is incestuous. That at some point, our ancestors had to mate with other cousins and second cousins and things like that. So the gene pool that you're imagining as being vast and infinite is actually much more limited. That's my understanding. And right, you guys know something about this?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll turn it over to the expert.
There's one really astounding example called mitochondrial Eve, where we inherit mitochondrial DNA only from our mothers, which makes it very easy to track linearly, genealogically, and we can, using mitochondrial DNA from around the world, we can track all of the mitochondrial DNA from everyone alive today back to a single African woman 170,000 years ago, where the human race almost went extinct, and only her descendants survived. And so we're related to each other more than once, actually, almost twice. to everyone else on the earth since then, only since then. And then before then, actually, we were also related to each other. So we're actually related to each other more than 2 times.
Well, I guess when I was in the past, I didn't know how like deep in we're gonna go. I was just gonna, like, you know, compared to us and monkeys, you know, I didn't know how deep in we're gonna go because I was married.
But you realise what this means. Thanksgiving dinner this year is going to be huge. And I don't even celebrate Thanksgiving.
But maybe not as large as you think it might be.
I always have problems with this, of course, being English, celebrating. What's that other one you celebrate over here?
It's called the 4th of
Independence Day.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. But I'll tell you a story about that. I took.
We're just derivative.
The Independence Day, you have the big parade through Oswego, so I took an English flag down with me. And of course, the English flag is a white flag with a red cross on it, and most Americans don't know that's the English flag. You see, they think the Union Jack, which is the flag of all England, Scotland, Wales, is our flag, but we have the English. So I took it down and I made lots of people hold the flag and took their photos holding the flag on Independence Day. And then I put them all up on Facebook with the headline, "Traitors." Unfortunately, one of my friends put up, "I'm not a traitor, I'm holding the flag of the defeated enemy." Fair play. So, we've got about 10 minutes left. I think we should just spend the last 10 minutes just talking about the piece of work that's due. I don't know how you feel about this, Patrick, but I was thinking about maybe giving the groups more time till the week after spring break, because you're all going to be away from each other. And I thought it might be fairer to let you come back and talk to each other. Do you feel that's a bit...
I do, because you put me in a very bad position if I said no. Absolutely.
Yeah.
They would do to me what we did to you back then.
So I don't know. We're on Thursday. So next week is spring break. So the week after. Shall we say the third? Well, shall we say the end of the week? What do you think, Patrick?
That's fine. I can't get to anything in the middle of the week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, well, we won't look at it till a while after. But what he means is you have this week to talk to us and to talk to each other. And you've got spring break to work over it as well. It just occurred to me that you're all away from each other and we're asking you to work together. Seems a little bit cruel to make you do the majority of work when you're away from each other.
But they can connect on.
I know you can connect online, but
It's not the same.
One could be a Saturday, on the other.
I'm an advocate for virtual worlds and online learning and all these things, but even I agree meeting with people helps enormously when you're doing these things.
It makes perfect sense as a Friday.
Okay, so the deadline Friday the 29th. I'll post something up and send an email out as well for people who aren't here. But if you can talk to other people in your group who aren't here at the moment, make sure they're all aware, okay? So, end of that day, but, yeah. Okay? That seemed a little bit fairer?
Yes.
Make life a bit easier.
Thank you.
Has anyone got any questions or anything you want to talk about in the last 5 minutes? Any questions on the work or anything you're doing? As we've said many times, you know, be creative with this. You know, we're looking for different ways we're leaving it quite open as how you develop this dialogue yourselves. Matt?
Yeah, I think I wrote we've been talking, and the topic that we're looking at, creativity and artificial intelligence, we really disagree with most about everything, like all of us. And so our paper is more we're creating a wiki, because we feel it's better to organize things that way, because we all have our own opinions. So it's really opinionated, like on.
Which is great. That's exactly the sort of thing we're very interested in.
Almost like
four different papers are good, but what we want to see is that you are interacting, you know, answering each other's questions, giving, if one person disagrees with another, you need to have some correlation there, not just talking about separate things.
Can I draw something on the board?
Sure.
Like a little diagram of what we're thinking? having like a wiki page, and instead of like having like the traditional paper format like intro, intro, and then like like the first section, and then the second section, and then like the conclusion or whatever. And then for each of those, we were going to have like wiki pages set up, and each one of us like first person, and then the second person, and the third person. We each kind of like have what we
Your own page.
almost like an argument on there. Yeah, we each have our own, and then we on our personal pages on the wiki, we're going to have like with our stance, like a one-page thing explaining our stance, and then we each kind of like go into the argument for like each part. So is that okay? Something like that?
Absolutely correct.
So it almost looked like the intro would look like the graduate discussion more, like how we're kind of just all talking. That's how each section is going to kind of look.
There are two things to be careful of. One is the kind of correspondence. Make sure to tie it down so that you're all talking about the same thing in each of these sections, and try and address points made by each other in your argument. If you disagree with someone, write about the reasons you disagree within here. And also, try not to make it like a discussion thing backwards and
Right,
forwards.
what I kind of meant was our first person would have like their introduction, and then their first section on the second page, and then theirs, and then their conclusion. And people could come in and comment on it. We could have like the argument, but each person is going to have their own thing.
Yeah,
So something like that, and then, so there'd be like each individual. And then,
this is my second thing about this. You want to go back and iteratively work on it. It's a graded piece of academic work, so try and move away from that kind of discussion group, I agree, I disagree, kind of. Try to keep the arguments academic.
so should we just have like the individual, and then we
Possibly, but you want to be, these will be iteratively worked on, because as you read what other people, you may write yours, but someone may write something, you may then rewrite. So whether you're writing something in response to them on their page as a reply or response, or whether you're writing on yours, however you're doing it, you have to make sure there's that correlation. And it's not going to be done in one individual write. You're going to have to go back and talk with each other across these things. Okay. Okay, to work on them. Yeah?
Is that making sense?
Okay, but that's a really good kind of format of the kind of things we're asking you for. And I'm actually quite pleased that you're all arguing. You know, we like to see some conflict. Do other groups find that they're arguing?
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, it's no good if you all agree.
If you're all agreeing, what you might do is posit what you might imagine to be a position that would disagree with the one that you're taking, and try to address that. So try to clarify the position that you imagine you're reacting to. Does that make some sense? Mm-hmm. And that'll help to focus the.
In Texas.
Well, you know what we mean by posit? You sort of put something out there and then respond to it, right? So the thing that you posit may not be the position that you would hold or that you or agree with. It's just the thing that you want to think about. What was the title of Richard's essay? The one that we were responding to?
Will computers ever be conscious?
See, the title of the essay, Will Computers Ever Be Conscious, it morphed into Will Computers Ever Be Human? Will Computers Ever Be Intelligent? So in a way, these are very different kinds of arguments. It's just the way that essay moved, it was just kind of imagining, oh yes, if you're conscious, you must be intelligent. If you're conscious and intelligent, you must be human. But none of us really know the answer to a question like that. But he's positing the possibility that it will never happen. So then it gives you something to respond to. Another image that I use when I'm teaching writing is imagine that writing or having a conversation in writing affairs is something like going canoeing or going out on a lake on a boat, on a rowboat, right? When you all get in the boat, but then you need to push off from the dock or to push off from the shore. So you need something to push against when you're writing. So And then, so even if you're disagreeing, you can be disagreeing against some position that you're pushing against.
And this is where I think media will be useful, bringing in examples, film, novels, and that are relevant to the subject you're talking about, and will provide you with some way of correlating and comparing and contrasting the novelists out there with your own, or the filmmakers out there with your own. Okay? Any other questions before we go? You're all dying.